Hello guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending of when you are here, where you are watching this streaming today. My name is Jorge de la Cruz and I will be here, your host today. Today is going to be a bit shorter session that it was the previous one, and we are going to cover a topic that I'm really excited about this topic. I've been using this specific combination of product for quite a few time, and it has reached pretty much the 10,000 downloads already. And I mean, it's just really great. If you are here today, probably you know that we are talking about vSphere monitoring with Grafana, and of course using Telegraph and InfluxDB. So without any further ado, I will start jumping into the slides, and after the slides, we will cover a real live demo of how everything looks like. If you have any questions, as per usual, just type them here on the chat and I will try to reply them as soon as possible. I have it here on the mobile phone. So if you're watching this later on, maybe on YouTube when I will upload it, exactly the same. Just put your comment on YouTube, and then I can help you later on. So let's move to the so I can start sharing my screen. If I go over here, hopefully you can see my screen and myself talking at the same time. So if I go on here, now you will see full screen of the of where we're going to cover today. So welcome to the part 2 of looking for the perfect dashboard. Today is about talking modern VMware vSphere monitoring with InfluxDB, Telegraph, and Grafana. So that is what we are going to cover today. What we will learn today: two super quick points: InfluxDB, Telegraph, and Grafana, just in case that you missed previous session. So I'm just going to cover a few slides just to refresh your memory, or if you're completely new and you're watching this session from the scratch, it's just so you can know where are we today. And the other point is just VMware vSphere monitoring. So let's move. Monitoring 101, quick introduction to the time series, OSC monitoring, open source monitoring, and so on. So let's talk about InfluxDB, Telegraph, and Grafana. So InfluxDB, it's the open source time series database where we are going to save all of these different metrics that Telegraph agent writes on it. Telegraph is the agent, is a plugin driven server agent that it will recollect all that information and saving it into the InfluxDB. I'm using InfluxDB 1.8 for now, but I'm planning to move everything to InfluxDB 2.0 quite soon, but it's not ready just yet. And finally, Grafana, it's the open source tool that we're using to publish these beautiful dashboards that the dashboard that run the queries from the InfluxDB and shows the data in the different color charts and so on. If that wasn't enough clear, I have a second diagram, which is what we just did mention, but with a few examples over here. So you can see the Telegraph there, that's the agent querying, interrogating the VMware vSphere and sending all the data, all the metrics back into the InfluxDB database. And of course, Grafana, it's later on the dashboarding system that we use to visualize everything. So let's move into the next slide. vSphere monitoring. Have a deep visibility of what is going on inside our vCenters. That's probably what we are after here. Priority is probably your priority number one, getting that information out from VMware and consume it in a probably faster way of that you can consume it on different Raspberry Pis, or you can just even give that access to different people in the team. What do we want to consume? probably and most likely we are going to look forward to monitor the CPU usage of everything, absolutely, for the clusters, from your hosts, from your different VMs, probably in percentage and in megahertz. That's probably what you're trying to achieve over here. Next one, it will be RAM usage, and the RAM usage, once again, probably you want to get the information out from the cluster, from the hosts, from the VMs as well, probably in gigabytes, but as well in percentage. Data stores, really important and crucial, right? So I'm pretty sure you want to know what's the percentage consumed on these data stores, and probably if we can give you, or I mean, if the tool gives you the BMFS reads and writes, IOPS, and total latency, that's quite important, and I'm sure you will appreciate and like that. So. And finally, probably you want to get statistics per VM as well. So like, for example, the usage of CPU, RAM, disk, but per VM stats itself. So all of this is what this solution gives us, the quick vSphere monitoring in real time, and is quite useful. But now that we're talking about real time, I'm going to cover that in a different slide. How you can start monitoring your environment today? Well, you have a few different ways, probably more than two, but the two of them that I usually prefer is, for example, just installing from scratch Telegraph on your Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat. I mean, the Telegraph agent, it's pretty much for every platform. We have seen on previous video, and you can go and check here on LinkedIn or in YouTube. You can just go and check how did we install from scratch InfluxDB, Telegraph, and Grafana step by step. It's there on the video, and it's as well on jorgedelacruz.uk. You can install it from scratch, which is not difficult at all, or you can just download, for example, VMware. They have like a Fling, which is called vSAN Performance Monitor, and you can download that from the Fling VMware sites, and that it has already Telegraph, InfluxDB, and Grafana pre-configured and installed. You just deploy the OVA, import the dashboards that I have over here on that you can find on grafana.com, and then you're ready to go. And probably the third way of doing this that I haven't included here is just, of course, using Docker. I'm aware that a couple of employees on InfluxDB, for example, Ignacio, they have everything, so you can just deploy it in Docker within minutes as well. So those are probably the 2-3 ways to prepare and get this environment ready to go. So now, if we talk about how the vCenter stores the metrics, they have two different kind of tiers of the data. One is the every 20 seconds. That it's the same metrics that when you go into your vSphere web client, when you select an ESXi or a VM, you will see that you have something that they say real time, and that real time is for maximum of an hour, and it's in intervals of every 20 seconds. So if you move the mouse, you will see that every kind of interval of the CPU or anything that you're looking, really, it's on intervals of 20 seconds. So that is kind of, I'll call it like short term, or something like that, short term monitoring. And then that includes, as you can see here on the slides, that includes metrics of CPU, RAM, networking, disks, and so on, like IOPS, writes, average, and so on. And then what vCenter has, it's what is more kind of long term. For example, the metrics from the data store, from the clusters, from the data center, they came in range of 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, and 24 hours. So those metrics, it's much better if we query them with a bigger interval, because if we try to query them every 20 seconds, we are not going to get information, because vCenter does not have anything for them on that short period. That's quite important, because later on, when you will see some of the dashboards, you will see that they are already aggruppated group on the metric itself, and you will see that it shows that the last 24 hours or for the last 6 hours or something. This is the reason. It's not because I do not want to get metrics every 20 seconds and get more granular visibility. It's because vCenter does not do that. And it does not do that just to do not saturate an important service like is vCenter, for example. So the metrics that they are every 20 seconds, they are stored in RAM. The other ones, they are stored in the database itself. So how does this looks like when you are configuring the Telegraph? Remember Telegraph, it has already the plugin included. So you just install Telegraph, you just uncomment the inputs.vSphere, and that's it. You're ready to go. But instead of kind of uncomment it and then go ahead, please follow these best practices, which is have kind of the real-time metrics and have the historical metrics. You can see that I'm doing every 60 seconds, but you can edit that to 20 and you will get the same values that the vCenter has. That's completely up to you. You just need to bear in mind that every 20 seconds, if you have a long list of VMs, it might suffer a bit, the Telegraph, but that's the only thing that you might need some more resources, and of course the InfluxDB to write all of that batch of metrics. And on the historical instance, I'm just doing it every 5 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, on here. And then you can see that what I'm including on there is just the data stores, and it's as well that's data store only, which it should have as well the clusters and data store. It should be there. It should not be on the real time. Just take a look into my blog, because there I have it, the copy paste, and you have it everything ready to move forward. Okay, and you can see that on both of them, I'm excluding the other part that I do not want to monitor within the, for example, in the real time, I'm excluding the data store, and I should exclude as well the cluster metrics, and then on the historical instance, I'm excluding the VM metrics and the host metrics, because of course I don't want that. I don't want those every 300 seconds. I want them every 20 or 60, as I have here. Now, learn from the community and build for the community, and this is quite important. I cannot stress this enough. I built all of this following kind of the community advice, conversations that I was having for a long time with a lot of people on VMware user groups, on VMwars, on the Slack of the vExpert. And everyone was saying the same, like, can we have like a better monitoring or like a dashboarding? At that point in time, a few years ago, it was kind of Zabbix was the only way, maybe SNMP, outside of course of the usual commercial tools, which they are really good, but this was more about the open source way of doing this. So yeah, at that point it was Zabbix, SNMP, maybe Nagios, and so on, which they were okay at that point in time, but something happened. So let me explain it to you, my journey with this whole VMware metrics, and it's quite fast, and then we will jump into the demo. So the community inception timeline here looks like this. In June 2016, I wrote my first Grafana blog, so it's already 5 years. Yeah, it was super basic about how to install InfluxDB, Telegraph, and Grafana. And then recently I just updated that article with the latest versions and with the latest Ubuntu 20.04 steps. So you have the more up-to-date step by step. But you can see that was June 2016, 5 years ago. They were really good days. Now we move into June 2017. That's when I produced the first vSphere monitoring dashboards 1.0. You can still see them see that specific dashboard on grafana.com on the dashboards. And if you open it, it will probably say that it's legacy and so on. But it get a lot of downloads, and that was using a PowerShell script by a fellow V expert called Mike Nisk. And that he has a project which was called vFlux stats kit, and he was using the Power CLI to pull data out, and then I just took that code and then sent that into InfluxDB, and after that I built the dashboard for Grafana. It was quite neat. It was super good, and it was quite fast. But again, it was a script that you needed to run, and that I don't think it get up to date nowadays, I think. So, but it was good. You can see how I took some work from another fellow V expert, make some edits, and of course credit him on all the dashboards and on all the code, and everywhere I credit him about that work that he has done, and then I built the dashboard on top. So what else it happened? On September 2018, Telegraph announced, I was following, of course, the Telegraph cadence, and then at some point I just received the what's new, and on the what's new, it was like new VMware input. It wasn't that much information, and it was like, I mean, what's this? And I went into the GitHub, which they usually have really good documentation. I jumped on there, and it was like, wow, this is massive, this is big. I was quite excited. I remember I didn't pretty much slept for a few nights just playing with this. It was really good. It was just querying the native vSphere SDK. And a few days after, because this was about the latest days of September 20 something, a few days after, I just finished the whole kind of collection of dashboards, which they were really version 1.0 of the overview, VMs and hosts and data stores at that point. So you can see this is how my journey looks like of around all of this vSphere monitoring with Grafana and so on. So my advice is really build for the community, and I just look into Google for pretty much the latest picture of like a VMware user group. I think probably this is leaders, and this is from a VMware 2019. A lot of good faces on here and a lot of great people on here. Hopefully you know a lot of them, and if you are one of them watching this, so I just kudos to you, because you're doing an amazing job for the community. It's just that, build for the community. I'm not earning any money with any of this, with Grafana, with the Telegraph, with any of this. I just build it for fun, build it for me, and build it as well for the community, just in case that it can help some others with their home labs or with their small businesses. Then that's fine. It's just all for fun, and it's all for the community. So with that, it's April 2021, and it's close to the 10,000 downloads, that Grafana dashboard, the main overview. Quite excited. I took a look today, and it was just, oof, it's really close to the 10K. So I don't know what I will do when it reaches the 10K. Maybe I will, I don't know, give away like a Raspberry Pi 4 with all the components and everything, so you can just deploy this on your own environment if you're the winner of that kind of raffle or something. I don't know. Let's see how it goes, right? So, okay, demo time. It will be quite short, but if you have any question, please let me know. I'm going to take a quick peek now into the mobile, so I can see if you are there and if you have any question at all. So let me see. Nothing for the moment, but if you have any question at all, please type it there on the on the chat. And again, if you're seeing this from on YouTube, on the recording later on, the same. If you have any question, just please type it, and I will be super happy to come back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so if I go and move now into my page over here, hopefully you can see. Let me take a look into the OBS. Yes, it should be all fine. After you have configured Telegraph and you download it the dashboards from Grafana, you will automatically see this working out of the box. Nothing difficult. If you have everything configured on Telegraph and InfluxDB, you will see this with your own environment. So I will say that it's quite colorful, to say the least. hopefully it's useful as well. Everything it changes as soon as we touch it. So for example, you will see if you have different vCenters, you will see them on there. If you have different clusters, you will see them on here as well. And if I select the AMD only, for example, then these things changes. Everything changes as soon as you click edit and just try to watch different metrics. When you select all, then everything comes here again. So all of the dashboards I try and I improve them over the time to make them dynamic, to make them fresh, taking a lot of feedback from the community, from the comments on the grafana.com, GitHubs, pull requests or comments or issues that I receive, emails that I receive into my Gmail account as well, comments on the blogs. Every feedback is always taken into account, and this this is the kind of the result of that. Data stores as well, you can see all of them. VMs, you will see them on here. I'm not quite sure if you will get the full list here, and that's probably a Grafana limitation, not kind of Telegraph or anything. It might be because this might be quite long. If you have here 1,000 VMs, I'm not quite sure what is the limit on here, but yeah, I don't think you can get thousands on here. You'll probably need to filter later on. What else we can see? Well, we can see the cluster status. We can see the status per cluster, so uptime, CPU usage, RAM usage. And then you have it as well in percentage in a graph over here, because this is pretty much kind of right now or the latest available point. But if you want a few more history, then you have it there. Where is the history? It's just there. I just have the last 6 hours, but you can always change this and put, for example, the last 12 hours, and everything refreshes pretty much immediately. So this is quite absolutely great that you can change time, and then it just loads super fast. Let's try the last 7 days, and then okay, let's see if this loads. It will appear here at some point, probably 7 days. Yeah, it's quite a lot of information, but it's here already. Let's put last 6 hours. Probably that's the most important stuff for me. If something has been a peak over the last 6 hours, you can see cluster RAM usage, cluster storage adapter, every data store usage capacity on this sort of retro LCD, or I really think on the around the DeLorean from Back to the Future. When I see this, you know, when they're traveling and this moves up and down, and the colors really reminds me to that, and I like it. I have another panel with an all data storage status, which you can see on here, but it's the same as it's here. I just prefer pretty much the bars, but I left this data storage status here just in case that you like this old way of showing the information. Now on the hypervisor CPU is showing to you the hypervisor CPU consumption per ESXi. You can see here with the tooltip, it has information around the different ESXis, hypervisor memory, net usage as well, vCenter, the vCCA itself, CPU and RAM consumption. And then I have a quick overview here about the CPU usage per virtual machine. This virtual machine status is a bit messy because it has all of them. So in your case, it might take quite a few time, and the tooltip might be a bit big, so you would like to filter on the top. But anyways, good stuff, good information on here, and then virtual machine disk performance, and just a small link on here so you can just visit the blog and if you like. What else does this dashboard have? They have a few more dashboards, so we can click on here, and this it's loading the dashboard per host. So you can see that it's showing me the uptime, CPU RAM once again in megahertz and in gigabytes, and then here with percentage, because I know you and I know myself, and I really like that it's both on here, so I can look at one or another depending on what I'm trying to see. RAM, CPU, total disk latency, and IOPS as well, and some network usage here per VM NIC. So that's good. What else is as well? So if I click on the other one, what is this one? This might be just by IPMI. This is nothing to do with vCenter or VMware. this is just using the IPMI Telegraph plugin to get information out of the IPMI. So I'm showing it here in a good way. I think this is the generic one. I have another one which is more up to date, and it has more granular information for me. You can see here my Supermicro AMD EPIC, and you can see here the temperatures, the everything. I have this dashboard, by the way, just here, that you cannot see it on the camera. And I have it here with a Raspberry Pi moving all the time, so I can see how my temperature of my servers is, which is quite important. Same for my Raspberry Pi itself, that is showing me the data. I wanted to do not go crazy in temperature itself. So what else do we have? We have probably the VMs one. These VMs, it's once again, it might take some time, so I will recommend it to you. That probably this was a test that I was doing today, restoring a VM. So I will go on here, and you see I'm going just to filter a few of them that they are important for me, like those 3 ones, for example. I select those 3 ones, and this changes within seconds. Okay, so I can see my DNS 001, CPU usage, RAM utilization, CPU ready in milliseconds. Same for my DNS2, and same for my HP store ones, which of course is a VSA and is consuming quite heavy resources. Quite useful. This is per VMs. And finally, if I go on here, we have the data store. And the data store one is showing me that super sleek kind of overview on storage, and it's showing me once again the total capacity and free capacity in numbers and in a donut on here, which is useful, I'll say. Not much stuff. I'm not taking the latency or anything from the controllers, because the truth is that it's not working that good, the Telegraph plugin retrieving that data, and it doesn't retrieve it all the time for some reason, so I'm not adding anything extra for data stores. It is quite limited, the monitoring for data stores. You have the capacity, and pretty much that's it. What else? It's interesting. You remember about that 20 seconds granularity that I mentioned before? I changed it into my configuration, and I have that specific every 20 seconds. But if I go here, because it's over the last 6 hours, and I have the sampling into automatic, it's not giving me every 20 seconds, because it's 6 hours and it's probably too big. So if I go on here, you see this 35, 20, 15. That means that it auto switch Grafana to do queries every 5 minutes, so it doesn't kind of give me a lot of kind of every 20 seconds for 6 hours. You can force that if you want to see the exact numbers as you are seeing on VMware. You can go on here and then change to 20 seconds, and then suddenly the metrics, they look a bit different, a bit uglier, because there is too much granularity in such long period of time, and it's not much useful really to see all of these peaks. So I will say that just leave it in automatic, because Grafana is doing for you this this kind of sampling by itself. Now, before I finish the meeting today, I know that some of you want to see a bit more in depth into some of the panels, the queries, and so on. So I'll show you, for example, this one, how I get this cluster status and how I get probably like a CPU usage, because everything else is pretty much similar. So if I go here and edit, that's another benefit. You can edit all of these panels as you like, everything, colors, size, I don't know, anything. Of course, remove my banner from there, from the button. That's perfect. You can just do that without any problem. How does it look like? You know that, of course, these are queries to the InfluxDB. And then what I'm doing, on this case, I'm just doing a kind of a subquery. So I'm selecting give me the numbers in terms of the items that they are inside this other query. So I'm just reading, I'm just doing a query from this overhead average and order by vCenter. So it's giving me at the end, it's giving me kind of one value, it's giving me 1. Thanks to that, so that is one vCenter. Exactly the same, but in this case, it's just kind of asking for the cluster name tag inside this specific other query, which is the total megahertz in average, which once again is filtered by cluster name. So what I'm doing is just I'm doing one query, and from that query I'm just extracting how many items are with the tag cluster name. So in this case I have 3 clusters, I have 5 ESXi, 35 VMs, and this is 35 VMs that I have on over the last 6 hours. And because I'm querying the usage average from the VM CPU. If I have a VM shut it down over the last 6 hours and Telegraph has not been injecting data around about that VM, it's not showing me that VM into my VM summary. And that's another improvement that the community came with, and they said like, look, I don't want to take a look into power off VMs. So this was a way of getting this done. So this is probably a quite advanced queries, I'll say. I don't do this that often, only when I want to obtain the number of items or per tag inside something. Like for example, this specific use case is perfect to get the ESXi summary or VM summary and data stores. But I usually do the more common stuff, which is give me CPU usage. So how this does it look like? Super simple. And I'm doing this even using the visual way of doing things with Grafana. So I'm selecting from the vSphere host CPU, where cluster name is equal to my cluster name or to your cluster name variable on here. And the CPU, it's on the instance total, because if you know VMware, you know that they have so many cores, every ESXi, and then the metrics can be a bit off. So I'm just using the instant total. Again, this was a comment from the community, like they say, like, look, if you select instance total and you select mean, it will be more accurate to what VMware is showing. And I said, yeah, okay, I'm going to add it into here. And I'm taking from this from this table, I'm just taking this specific usage average, the mean, so kind of the average value, and then I'm just tagging it with cluster name CPU, so I can go on here. You see, I'm just getting the percentage on all of this. Of course, this usage average, it gives you a number. Then you need to format that number. So if I go on here, I'm using the new time series panel from Grafana 7.4, which is really cool, but I'm in 7.5 at the moment, so that's good. And then I'm going into field, I'm selecting lines on this kind of new, more circle ones option that I really enjoy. Selecting hue, solid, connected, on the label is that, and on the unit it's a percentage, because I know that this value is a percentage. So you need always, when you do some queries on Grafana, it will give you a number, or it will give you, the result, but then you need to format that later on. If you want a percentage, if you want the decimals as well. I don't have any, I don't put anything. So whatever VMware is sending, then I can see on here. If you force the decimals to 1, for example, now this changes and it's just 0.6, 25.2, blah, blah, blah. But because I think it's giving me 3 or 4 decimals, I'll let it like that, so it's a bit more accurate sometimes. So this is quite nice, and yeah, this is how you do normal metrics on here. Well, what else can I show you quick? Maybe the CP on virtual machines, because it's crazy. It has so many VMs. But it's exactly the same. It's nothing different. I'm just taking from this table VM CPU, with the VM name is the virtual machine name that you select on here, and CPU the instance total. Give me the usage average, and then filter them or order them by VM name, of course, because that's important for me and probably for you. So you don't see one line, you just see everything per VM, and then you can see on here, this is quite big. You can always filter here, and a lot of people told me already that maybe show the top 10 or something with more CPU consumption, and you can absolutely do it within the query itself. But for now, I'm not adding any top 10 or top 30 or top 50 or something like that. Maybe something to consider in the future, even by changing it here on the variable. So you can select show me top 5 or top 10, and then everything changes dynamically. So that's something to consider for the future. Probably we will have one session dedicated just to do queries and to do panels from scratch, so you can see, instead of seeing this that is already here, we can do it from scratch. But I think with that, and if I don't have any question on the chat, which I don't have any, I hope that you enjoyed this session today, that it was useful for you to learn about all the VMware dashboards and everything, and how you get the monitoring. And I hope to see you on future sessions on LinkedIn Live. If you have any topic, just let me know what should we cover. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, the rest of the week. And yeah, it's a bit sunny outside as it was the other day, so I think I'm going to enjoy the time. So without any further ado, yeah, thanks for watching and hope to see you soon. Cheers, bye.